Boom, I think I'm live. Can everybody hear me? I'm looking in chat right now. Wow, there's a few people here. That's very, very cool. Okay, I'm looking in chat. Can you all hear me? Can you see and hear me? I always got to ask because I've messed this up before. Oh, cool. Okay, you can hear me. Thank you. Jessica, thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, cool. You know, I've screwed that up before, so I still panic at the beginning. So, all right, really cool. I noticed there are like 4 people waiting or something, so that's very cool. I appreciate everybody that came to this live and wants to participate here. Okay, put the light in here is bad. Just a minute. There, okay, that's a little bit better. Sorry. Okay, all right. So to get started, so this is going to be a 3-hour live this time. But I want to thank everybody for coming. I see several people in the chat here. Thanks for being here, Jessica, Girl in the Gong. Thank you, Third Eye Tribe, Demilla, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I'm very, very honored. And this, what I'm going to do is I'll try to get down to the point and nail out the information as quickly as possible, then do a little bit of chat about it. And we'll just kind of, chew the fat on it just a little bit. All right. Um, so there's a reason I'm bringing this up in particular is just that sometimes I think that credit should be given where due. And I'm not one that really comes off with a lot of the ego and tripping on that. But in reality, I came forward in 2014. That's been over 10 years ago now. And my story has not changed. The information I presented has not changed, especially concerning contact. And at that point, years before I came forward, up until that point, I always searched for people that had information similar to what my experiences were, what I had learned. And one of them was the component of mycelium mushrooms that these ships have. Okay, that's one component. And nobody was talking about that. Okay, none of these people in these communities, none of that. The only person I found it was like Terrence McKenna and Rupert Sheldrake. And what they're talking about is slightly different, but on the same premises, as far as things like psilocybin are impervious to solar radiation and things like that. So there were some things they had. And then there was another gentleman that came forward. I don't know. I first read about him right around the time I'd come forward, David Adair. He had talked about a symbiotic organic engine. Not exactly what I'm talking about or experienced, but something similar that's a living entity that's symbiotic in different ways with the crew. So that's about it. Nobody else. And somebody threw it, oh, Corey Good was talking about it. No, he wasn't. I met that cat. He was not talking about any organic mushrooms, mycelium involved in spacecraft at all. And I took heat from some people in audiences because they said it was BS. But then NASA starts making things like I've said before. And some of this I repeat, some of it you might have heard, you might have not. But NASA is making it started with them making mycelium mushroom houses for Mars and for the moon when they actually try to colonize. And also how mycelium is being used to repair infrastructure within certain cities, bridges, buildings, things of that nature. Okay, and it's advanced much more than that since then. That's what we'll be talking about here. Okay, and the reason why, so I bring that up because I've heard some people talking about it now. Suddenly it's becoming common now to talk about the mushroom factor involved with the craft and stuff like that. No one was talking about that. And I don't get credit for it. I'm not here to be Mr. Ego guy and famous or nothing, but man, sometimes credit should be given where it's due. I've not written any books. Most of what I present is on through interviews and on my YouTube channel here. So anyway, that's just, and I just see that happening a lot. You've got these people that are so desperate to be famous and to, you can't get rich on this stuff. So I don't know what they're tripping, want to be famous. Some of them, they don't care about rich. They want to be famous. They want to be a household name, which is, I guess that's all right. We all got our different things, but some of us, this is real, trying to get this out. And for me, so many people that I know listen to me or even tune into my frequency, they're all contactees themselves, most of them. Okay, so it becomes a matter of us understanding our contact. If we're not, what about it can be beneficial to our lives, can be beneficial to humanity? Something that, makes it not so much of an alien agenda. So anyway, the reason why I have an interest in this, so I will just go over this, all right? It started, the main one came with this craft. And this is a craft that I saw. I call it the morphing organic UFO. And this ship, I've described it before, how it had actually the antenna, the directional emitter on top, and how that seemed to be tuning me in. But I know more about what's going on now. And what it would actually doing was tuning in my brain waves. This ship operates like brain waves, dealing with those MACOs and those black holes. They operate more like brain waves and like the microtubules of our brain that we've talked about before, the mirror neuron network and all those things. Anyway, so sorry, I still don't know how to post pictures yet. I'll try to learn by next time. I'm lagging, a laggard. Anyway, this craft, when it started off, it was metal, okay? And it's the one that transformed, and it started, morphing. This looked like almost there was like static around it when I was actually viewing it. Then, kind of a flash, and then it turns into this, which is the tripyramidal Merkaba. That's what it's called in this book right here by J.J. Hurtak, the Keys of the Enoch book, this one. And if you go to the back and the index and look up tripyramidal Merkaba, you'll find that, and it actually describes it and shows it morphing and everything. If not, I've got a video on here, and I'll try to remember to link that to a small, like 30-minute video that I described that and show it up the book itself. Anyway, those pages. Anyway, but I'm not gonna look them up right now. Anyway, that's what this had turned to. Okay, and I was on board this thing. All right, but trying to deal with what I saw it do in the air was almost more than I can handle. It's one thing to talk about the holographic principles and all these different scientific things, but to witness something like that kind of pushed me to the brink, okay? Kind of like seeing that holographic mountain at that time. Anyway, on board this craft, okay? Like, for example, one room, okay? The walls seem to be very alive. But when I say that, when touching them, they didn't have the consistency of like a toadstool. It wasn't soft like that. There was a harder consistency about it. So that's when I knew this thing was alive. You know what I mean? It felt like some type of a fungus slash mushroom deal. Those little windows there, if you're like me and you get too curious and you get too close to them, start looking like you would look in a garage window or something, suddenly you'll get sucked into that room. Whole other dimensional thing going on that causes a great deal of sickness. Or get too near one of these holes, the other hole there, and that felt like probably, I imagine what being birthed felt like being sucked down that thing. That's what happened to me. And then suddenly I was in a room down below. And I did feel like people have asked, did you feel like G-forces when you're going down? It felt like it to me, like sliding kind of, but sliding downwards. Like probably if you come out of a birth canal, I think it might feel like that. Anyway, inside, again, the rooms, and this is the one that has these eggs. And I've talked about that. Every room on board this craft were these eggs, but that's not really what we're here to talk about. We're more here to talk about the mycelium, or the fungal component. All right. Now, during this experience, when I'm touching the wall, I want to know what it is. Okay. And these beings they answer before you can even formulate the questions in your mind, something that takes a minute to get used to. All right. And what I got is a 4-part components, okay, a composite of this living being. All right. The first is, and I know I've said some of this before, but I've got to make sure because the consistency is necessary so everybody knows what I'm talking about. One part of this element, okay, of these craft is metamaterials, metals that are mined from planets that are devoid of atmospheres and Van Allen belts, especially. Something about the solar radiation for whatever nanospectrum, color spectrum the other sun is on, it bombards those metals on those planets in a way that are unknown to us. Okay, so those are true meta materials, meta metals, I guess what you call them. Anyway, so that's one part. Okay, the other is we're dealing with a type of quasi photonic crystals, and when you look at how quasi crystals have these odd lattices with them. Okay, and something I've talked about just to throw that in. Okay, that brings us to another engine I've shown you. This isn't about that, so I'm not going to go into this too much. This is another one that I kind of, when I was much younger though, I went over this, okay? And looking at this when it was in activation, actually these crystals are spinning, and they're spinning so fast I can't see them anymore. It's generating this hum, okay? And this thing is huge. These crystals are like bigger than basketball goals, probably about 3 feet wide too. They're giant. They're glowing some sort of chemical luminescence from inside. So I went over this before, okay, and how the being had told me that in my mind, I'm being told that it can heal human flesh. It doesn't just power like Legion ships and small planetoids. It can heal human flesh. So I think it's got something to do with that sound. Anyway, wrapping this up on this. The thing is, scientifically, all right, what I think this is, if you look up the dynamic Casimir effect inside a superconductive circuit. Okay, that is actually that's a science of thing that's been done now. I'll say that again. Look that up. Okay, the dynamic Casimir effect inside a superconductive circuit. And what you're dealing with there is you're dealing with the vacuum effect. Okay, and that's what this is, a vacuum, and you're getting the free energy that's going on with whatever these living crystals are as well. Okay, so anyway, that's just neither here nor there, and I could be wrong. I could get a badass scientist or engineer that tells me, oh, it's not that. Yeah, that's not possible. I might be wrong, but that's what I think it is. And at least I'm trying to understand what the hell this was I experienced and what's going on. Anyway, okay, back to where was I? Okay, okay. Anyway, about the ships. That's okay. The quasi crystal part. That's we have the metamaterials from planets that are devoid of atmosphere and Van Allen belts. We've got the quasi crystals, which are also some type of a photonic crystal capable of generating great energy, I believe, whether it's bioluminescent or chemical luminescent. Okay. The next thing is actually DNA from the crew. Okay, which is meaning like they're actually the Kundalini energy that actually that the life energy of ourselves. And whether how much that goes to DNA and genetics, I don't know. But I know they're involved in it. And sometimes when you're dealing with a conscious craft, you're dealing with conscious energy, conscious life energy that they're giving also that gives them a symbiotic connection to the craft. All right. And the fourth thing, the most important thing that we're talking about now is there's a fungal component, they said. They didn't say mycelium, but there's like a mushroom fungal type of component. All right. And all these together are then grown over a micro black hole or wormhole, Mako. Okay. In space, probably deep space, I'd imagine, because they're giving me an idea of thinking like when seeing like, let's say if you're a Star Trek fan like me, one of those shipyards is named Utopia Planitia, I think it is. For like, what if that was for these beings? They were showing me something like to think of how actually a small mushroom patch pops up on a yard, but this is in space. And you know how they have got a certain connection they have going. Now, mind you, in space, when something's made in space, like right now, when they bind something in zero gravity, like per se the president's windshield, it makes the molecules bind in a way that makes it almost indestructible. So there's a whole nother thing going on when you're dealing with growing something over a black hole in space like that that's alive. And that's why the engine itself, the center of it, is temporally displaced because it is a Mako inside. These are civilizations and beings that are using the fabric of the Mako, of the black hole itself, as a power source. It takes it to that level of a type 3, type 4 civilization, added with the organic too. Okay. So anyway, breaking that down. All right. And I wanted to say, because I get too excited on this, but hopefully I think I just explained the reason why I obsess with the mycelium and the fungal component involved with these craft. All right, that's the main reason. To a point of where I've said it before. When I was younger, I mean, I tried everything. I tried to induce these contact experiences. They weren't negative, but I was trying to understand them more because they were messing up my life. I couldn't think about nothing else. So I just had to figure it out. So I tried to induce contact, not CE5, just different ways I was trying to induce it. I was trying to meditate, all these different things, okay? And it didn't work. It happened when they wanted the experiences to happen. But one thing I tried, since there was a mycelium component, and when I started checking out what Terrence McKenna was saying, I got me go to some pretty good shrooms, man, these blue Hawaiians. And I went out to the sacred spot out there where that stuff happened, and I ate those mushrooms trying to induce contact. Let me tell you, it didn't work, yo. It didn't work. I went out there and freaked out, but I didn't. I mean, it had, like trees and communications, but there was no spaceships and no extraterrestrial intelligent, nothing like what I've done before, what I had before. So it didn't work like that. But I was trying to connect how consciously they might be connected somehow. Anyway, because I did kind of agree with what Terrence McKenna said, that technically psilocybin would be the perfect interprobe, galactic probe on a symbiotic level. It's just they're impervious to cosmic radiation, which I think is important to bring up. In fact, let's just break this off, okay? I'm gonna keep going so I don't make this thing too long. Talking about psilocybin being impervious to radiation, let's talk about things that they're doing right now with one of the newer funguses that's been found. And these are all videos I've done, and I'll try to link them afterwards in the main thing, in the main chat deal after it renders and everything. But radiotropic fungus that was found on the walls of Chernobyl and the walls of Fukushima. Okay, and there's actually 3 types of radiotropic fungus. But what it does is it creates something called radiosynthesis. And radiosynthesis is it uses its melanin, okay, to convert gamma radiation into the growth cycle. Most interesting fungus. Okay, it was, I mentioned before, it was estimated, or it was told to me by some scientists and those undercover people that contact me sometimes. But they said that they had, one had told me that they suspected that actually the radiotropic fungus was sent to us from a type 3, type 4, type 5 civilization to help us with radiation cleanup. So that's, again, food for thought. Okay. And we think that we never get any help. And is that true that we don't? And then it went further with the Quiche. That whole Quiche Foundation was supposed to try to do something with that, and nothing happened. Just like, have you seen anybody that's really seen any of the free energy devices, one of them in person? I haven't. I don't even know anybody that has. I know some people in the free energy movement. So stuff like that. Anyway, back to radiotropic fungus. All right. And that's what they started doing with that. and with its capabilities is they started making what's called radiation shielding. And it was radiation shielding that would be for the International Space Station. And I posted on Facebook, I actually posted not the patent, but the laboratory that was doing it. And it was in physics org and all sorts of stuff. And so you can look, that was 4 years old. So where are they at with that now? Okay. They've went further with it. And what they're doing now is trying to make a type of a shielding. This is the problem that I think they don't tell people about. As far as the astronauts go and space travel, they definitely don't emphasize it like they should. Okay. That is cosmic ray brain damage. Look that up. It's not just me talking BS. Okay. Cosmic ray brain damage. That happens when you're unshielded outside of the Earth's magnetic fields and the Earth's atmosphere and magnetic fields, excuse me. The cosmic rays unshielded start deteriorating cognitive functions by deteriorating brain tissue. Okay, look that up. And they don't tell how detrimental that is. So by the time you had astronauts that got to Alpha Centauri or wherever, or even to Jupiter or any of those places, they're going to be brain dead. Okay, so these shielding that they're using, this radiotropic fungus to aid with radiation absorption, and they're also self-reproducing. Now, here's the caveat, something I want to say and add into this, and this is important, all right, because this ties into what I've been told my contact experience is what's come through. Okay, so along with this type of radiotropic fungus, clandestine, anyway, they're combining it with a bacteria, okay? This bacteria is called Deinococcus radiodurans, okay? And what it is it is one of the most radiation resistant organisms on Earth. It's a bacteria. Now, okay, and it's like the second most strongest impervious to radiation resistant organism here on Earth. They call it like the Conan bacteria, like mocking Conan the Barbarian, because it's so strong in that way and so resistant. Okay, now they're combining that with the radiotropic fungus to create these self-regenerating shielding for the astronauts. So that way they'll be able to do more long-distance space travel and not have the effect of that cosmic ray brain damage. So that's that. I used to hear different percentages that they thought unshielded cosmic rays deteriorated brain tissue, but now they're saying they don't know exactly. And you have to take it, because for my generation, man, they made fun of like that kind of fact, because that's what the Fantastic Four was all about. They went out into space and they didn't have proper shielding, and they got tore up by the cosmic rays, and it turned them into turn them all into meta humans, right? Anyway, but taken away from that, the brain damage factor is real. So anyway, I think that's fascinating. Now, going back to this Deinococcus radiodurans, this bacteria, okay, this goes in with my experiences and the information I got, which involves our Earth's deep biosphere. Look these things up. The Earth's deep biosphere is underneath our oceans and goes almost to the core. And within the deep biosphere is like over 70%. They're saying even microbial life, 99% almost of Earth's undiscovered bacteria and undiscovered fungus. And when dealing with this undiscovered bacteria, it's called, you got to love it. I've done videos on this and I'll link them all, okay? So it's nothing new I'm saying, but it's important people know this. This is called dark microbial matter. That's what this bacteria in the dark biosphere is called. So there's all sorts of melanated creatures there, and that are fungi, of bacteria that we don't know about. They're undiscovered by our science. So who knows? The two that we've named Might not be, may just be the tip of the iceberg of what are creatures of a mushroom type and a bacteria type that can deal with high amounts of radiation that makes them, extremophiles. These are extremophiles. Everybody with me? Sorry, I get to go on a little bit. It's different. This is the same stuff I would be doing during one of my videos, except for I don't have to rush through, but it's no pictures. That's the only thing. The pictures, that's why I put the pictures at the beginning and end of the videos, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, and you can look it up. And I used to dig the beats that PC used. So anyway, that's another subject. Okay, so while we're on fungus, all right, I want to go to a couple other aspects of it. One is, were you aware that there is a fungus that can eat plastic? It eats plastic. It emits some sort of a chemical that actually turns plastic into organic matter. And the name of that is, Lord, y'all have to say me. I may understand a little bit of science, just a little, but sometimes the terms, the words they use, it might as well be like algebra when saying it goes. So anyway, the type of this bacteria, this fungus is called Pasteloporus microspora. You look it up. It eats plastic by emitting a type of chemical that breaks the polyurethane down into organic matter. Okay. And they're saying that it has possibilities for cleaning up landfills. Now, if we were to be more like Star Trek and bring in some of the technologies that they have that you see are starting to actually emerge, some of the Star Trek technologies, you know how they actually dealt with waste on one of those starships? They had a thing, a device called a biomatter resequencer that would break the waste down into molecules, very, very small molecules. And then it could be reconstructed. It could be used to be reconstructed for boots or whatever the case is, objects. Okay. That was the thing. So this biomatter resequencer, I think that's where our science should really be going right now to deal with these plastics, and they should be using some of this. We have an ally there with this type of fungus that can help with that. I'm not saying it's a cure-all, but my God, y'all have all seen that those islands of plastic floating around. It's horrible, terrible, and it's so much plastic now. It's not going to stop. So when thinking if we want to reach out to another civilization, help us with that. You've got some of these beings that are mycelium beings. Help us with that to get rid of some of this. Show us how to make a bioresequencer. It's our science if we don't already have one. These things that pop up, the Star Trek quotes, I think is really there. In fact, I even tell you what episode that was. It was an episode of Enterprise, and on there, they're on the bridge, they're taking questions from these kids because they're the first people in space to do that mission or whatever, and they're taking dealing. He get a question to the engineer Trip, and it's a poop question. He's asked, "What do you do? What do you do with this with the waste products?" And he explains it. He said, "Oh, come on, Captain, the poop question." You can probably look that up on YouTube. Poop question, Star Trek and Enterprise poop question. I bet you that comes up. Anyway, that's when they were things like that. They're introducing technology like that. I think if you combine that with some of these, radiation absorbing and reflective organisms, and we start getting in the deep biosphere, who knows what else is there with this dark microbial matter. Some years ago, I got with Dr. Shields, and I sent him a video. I thought in the middle of a black hole, it's not hogs, bisons. I think it's actually dark microbial matter. And I think that's something that they've been looking for, and the connection between that and space, as far as living organisms, is not as different as they think. Anyway, that's another thing. I'm not going to go into all that, but that is it. Another way I think that melanin is a factor. All right. Anyway, so going on down. All right. There is, there's that zombie fungus too that is called, Opiciplius, oh, Unilidates, or maybe it's Unilateris. Anyway, it's that zombie ant fungus. It's kind of creepy what it does to the ants. They think that one type of ant, the zombie ant, I think it might attack the carpenter ants or something like that. Something weird going on. Somebody know more than that about me. But anyway, I think that's reminiscence of the hybrid or the fungus that came here on Night of the Living Dead. No, sorry, not Night of the Living Dead. That's the brains eating brains. Body snatchers. The invasion of the body snatchers. They were technically those pods. They were some type of a fungus. And it's interesting when you start looking at entertainment, how often that comes up. Going further with this and with the regenerative shielding, I had my friend Jessica, who's in here helping me, thank you. One of the targets I had given her was a moai of Easter Island, and her data had showed that these were some type of cyborgs, like mushroom cyborgs. I mean, that came out in her data, and it had me look into what's now called biohybrid machines, which are mushroom bots that they're using actually light to stimulate a mycelium brain to make these robots move. And that's interesting because that came through when one of the targets I gave her was how did the moai move from one side of the island to the other? And legend is that the elders asked them to move and they got up and moved and did it. But when you look at one of those mycelium robots moving, that gives you that feeling. Now they're trying to make a skin for the mycelium robots that is a type of regenerative radiotropic skin for those robots. You can look into that. I think that's really a trip. So you're getting a self-replicating, self-regenerating shielding for those small robots that they can use light to actually manipulate the emotions of the mycelium to make the robot do what it wants. That's kind of a trip, but that's something that's already happened apparently. Jessica's data showed that. So I think it's very worthy of being abreast of these things. These are different than just the metamaterials that we're already familiar with that can produce invisibility and are somewhat bullet resistant and things like that. This is something different going on here. This is more about radiation and something they're trying to do really towards space exploration. So in that way, you see how the mushroom and this is going to be combined. And I want to bring this up. When I bring up the deep biosphere, okay, and these organic craft, and the mushroom symbiotic connection, I want you to look at the symbiotic connection mushrooms have with trees. So when you get one of those craft comes here, it's going to use the tree system as communication, similar to what I think Avatar was trying to show, but this is different to a degree. Okay, and then not just that, when you see some of these craft that go not just into the sea, but into the ground, some of them are going into the deep biosphere, the organic ones, and they're hovering and being present in the deep biosphere where there's all that dark microbial matter. Okay, that's stuff that comes to me during my experiences that the star beings give me. Not me out there battling reptilians, not all this other stuff that sells a lot. I know that fantasy and sensationalism, oh God, sorry, I get too high. Sensationalism, oh God. Anyway, it's just too much fantasy, okay? Too much fantasy, okay? And sensationalism. There it is. I finally got it out. Sensationalism. Lord, got too hyped there. Anyway, that's what a lot sells, a lot more than this. And I try to get with the science that backs up what I've experienced and how this can help our civilization. And this can help in terms of help us with space exploration. It's like what Credo Mutwa had said that the Nomo had told the Zulu. They said that if you all can't let go of war and fear and start becoming spacefaring and follow us, you're going to exterminate yourself. I think that's pretty much good. And that's, I've mentioned it before, that it's like we're coming out of the Star Wars scenario. A lot of people are talking about the Lacerda files right now, and I believe that lizard had talked about the Galactic Empire type of a thing, a scenario similar to that, and how you had those that were actually not in alignment with it, almost like what we would call quote unquote Jedi's, and then they went against the Empire, and them along with the criminal faction all got wiped clean and sent to a prison planet, and they're saying that's Earth, and they caught in a reincarnation cycle again, again, and again. And a portion of that could be true. Problem is, during the regressions I've done, I've not caught it yet, not experienced it yet. I think so much about our death process is not told truthfully. So much about what they're doing right now through our brains, through neural weapon, neural monitoring, neural influencing is really bad right now, and it's writing a serious narrative that is one that isn't helping our lives, all of us. You know what I mean? Not so. Food for thought. Anyway, I'm about done here. Sorry, I forgot the main other thing I was gonna bring up. Sorry, I'm getting a drink here. Okay, the concept of the Wetiko, I've heard it pronounced different ways. Wetiko. It's even Weitiko. I've seen it spelled a couple different ways. But what it is in the research that I had, it seemed that it was a European concept. Somebody told me, oh, it's Native American. But they provided not what tribe or anything, but I thought it was European. So I don't know. I mean, I guess people can do deeper research than me. But the concept of it is a mind virus. And a mind virus basically that turns people into psychic vampires. People after, what's the word, Jessica? The Jolly Rancher sounding, the loosh. People after the loosh, the negative psychokinetic energy. Okay. And that's what this mind virus is. And it expresses all the worst parts of our nature. Now, when dealing with that, what I think it might be is one of these dark funguses that is actually hostile AI. People tripped out on AI. That term is getting really burned out. Some of that used to be called robots, if you remember that, and androids and computers. But everything is AI, kind of like everything was before that. It was CGI. There's always these words that just. But when dealing with, you look at how some of those experiments have showed how mycelium can choose pathways, how it makes intelligent movements, it senses things. Okay, that's the real AI you want to deal with, not people like that tall alien. Oh, Rudolph, tall alien. Let's sit there, and I have black goo here. And saying that the vibration of that cat is so low. Come on, man. Somebody I used to work with was dealing with them all the time. I said, what's it you dealing with that vibration, that individual? Why? And they're showing this thing, that this test tube, and it's this black fluid in it. They're going like that and going like this. And man, I'm calling BS. That was some ferromagnetic fluid that you can buy for magic tricks on Amazon. Look it up. But that's all right, man. Never mind that. Sorry, I ain't trying to get in a war going with nobody, but I just low vibration stuff. I just don't really dig it, man. And I think it sucks how evil just is rampant on this planet, and some of it has no set place, so it moves around and jumps from person to person, group to group. You know what I mean? And right now, I see openly how it's trying to destroy people like us coming together about contact and really trying to figure out what's going on the positive side. There's a whole bunch of stuff trying to ruin that. And it's easy because you have so much negative that goes on here. Negative abduction and experiments is real as it gets. And you get people, for instance, in fact, I meant to mention it, sir. Sorry, meant to mention it today on Jessica's show that we did a few hours ago. And that was Credo Mutua said that he was been abducted. More than that, when he was abducted, he described being in a facility with these couple of different types of grays working on him. He uses the word udimanti, and he said it was torturous. The word they use for the gray is means tortures of humanity. And he said he saw other people in this room, different cultures, different races, people in there being experimented on too, being hurt with these experiments. He described being in another room and seeing these grays in these little jars. And then after that, when the experience is over, he finds himself walking naked, like in the partial jungle or somewhere outside of near Zaire or something. He had said, and when he finally gets to where people know him, they say, "My God, his brother said we've been looking for you. You've been gone for 3-4 days, and all we found was one of your medals and your trousers and your boots. We just found that, and we didn't know what happened to you." And he was out of it for a while, and he said the dogs are trying to attack him because he smelled like sulfur, like these grays, and like the environment. Now, when you look at that and figure that in, that is exactly a missing 411 case. The boots, the whole thing. He's one of them that got found and has a memory. Is it because he's a Sangoma? I don't know. Was it because he had ate some of the flesh of a gray? I don't know. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, that is somebody that described that exact deal. And when you look at the data that Jessica had from the missing 411, another one of those blind targets, really a good one. I almost didn't want to do that because I felt like it's risky, but we all needed to know truth on that. Okay. But what was she describing? She was describing these like laboratory type of scenarios with a bunch of people in there being experimented on. Exactly what Credo was describing. Anyway, sorry, I'm supposed to be talking about mycelium, and I talked about that last time anyway. You know, that is it. Another thing I was to mention that I've seen two estimates that the deep biosphere has 70% of Earth's undiscovered bacteria and fungi, and the other I saw was it's 99% of it's undiscovered. Either way, it's a whole lot down there that we don't know about. And if we could get a collective consciousness agreement with some things like some dark microbial matter, who knows the healing things we could find? Okay, the different ways we can deal with some of these issues. These are things that I'm bringing up because I think it's important. Again, I think this can affect our science. It can affect our space exploration. It can even as far as like just the understanding. One thing I would say, like for example, when I said I went out to that spot out there when I was late teens and I ate those mushrooms, those blue Hawaiians, and I freaked out there. So something it did show me. I may not have seen spaceships and yada yada, but it did show me an inward revolution, and it made me realize like, whoa, oh my God, I'm depressed. And it's like then the shrooms are gone. You realize you just go back to being normal. Like, man, I'm a depressed cat. I've heard a lot of people say that. So the fact that now has become a micro dosing thing for depression, I think, is no big surprise. I can't believe it took science that long to figure that out. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But when talking about Bracewell probes, which is probes that are in science fiction that go to another star system, okay, or a Van Neumann probe, which is one that is capable of self-replicating itself and self-repairing itself. And fortunately, hopefully not what's called a berserker probe, which is self-replicating and warlike for takeover. But try to stick for Von Neumann probes and Bracewell probes. But actually, psilocybin is the perfect thing for that. All right, just interesting. Food for thought, everybody. All right, that's it for stuff I was going to go over there. I think I got everything. The zombie fungus, right? As far as I know, zombie fungus isn't capable of jumping species, so we're good there. Earlier today, I was talking to somebody about viruses and how some of them, I think the prion viruses have origin in inner space, in outer space, and that we've detonated bombs out there. We've collected colloidin buckets out there full of bacteria and trying to identify. And I think it's hostile if you're dealing with a collective conscious species that might be outside of this atmosphere. Doesn't matter if they're micro or not. And I think that it declares war. And some of these creatures come in here on asteroids or on the meteorites, and they survive the process coming through. And then they start causing things like the red rain, red cow disease, or mad cow disease, mad deer disease, these prion diseases. I think they come from space. I'm just saying that. Could I be wrong? Yes. I think it's worth of looking at when they say that this different bacteria that they say growing on the space international space station on the windows, and how they're taking actually bacteria out there. Like for example, that bacteria that's Deinococcus radiodurians, they've actually taken that and that one of the three types of radiotropic fungus and grown it in space. And the problem is like they grow, but they only stay alive for like 3 or 4 days. So they got to take it to the next level. But they're doing this stuff, and like I said, that was years ago. I don't know where they're at with it now, but it's everybody's job out here to find out. Y'all can educate me and tell me, okay? But what I'm saying is very real. It affected my contact scenarios, and that's the information I get from the star beings and the stuff I present to everybody. One of the reasons I came forward. Now to the chat. I'll do this for this a little bit. I'll probably get out of here, everybody. So I appreciate everybody coming. Wow, it's back to it's actually up to time 6:22. Oh wow, cool. Okay, hey, what's up, Steve Wolf? Thanks for being here. Bigfoot Dwarf, what's happening, man? Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot, thanks for being here. Dan Guest, thanks for being here and all the support. Man, sorry everybody. I'm gonna go up a little bit just in case I missed something. Anybody ask them something or anything? Anybody want to talk about anything? Just type it in now, and I'll go over it. But I'll go up a little bit and just see where I'm at. Universal Superversal. I never could say that right. Thank you for being here. Retro Band CT. Thanks for being here. Very cool people here. I have no idea. I'm always sure I'd be talking to myself on each one of these. Feos, thank you for being here. I'm gonna go up a little bit further. I'm gonna go up to almost 6, and I'll just look and see what's going on. Parasites type come in all types. I mean, whether it be micro, whether it be large, I mean, parasites come in all types. But nonetheless, we have to be aware, whether fractals or not, we have civilizations that have actually gone through inner space, that they've gone to microscopic, they've done inner inner evolving, okay, which means they're getting smaller and smaller. The same way that I can't remember, is it called the Brownian principle or some weird thing like that, where each year the amount of transistors on a microchips gets increases and it gets smaller. I mean, you take that down to the microscopic level, the nano, or then to the pico, and they start dealing with Dyson spheres like I've talked about before. It's a whole nother thing going on civilization wise. And a lot of times during a contact scenario, when you broaden your modalities for contact, you realize that you have creatures that are using bilocating technology. Some of them can do it consciously through optical nerves, but you're dealing with that bilocation of the dream body, the energy body. It doesn't conform to the same parameters of this body. So you may actually be having an experience with beings that are microscopic or nano size. And you think you're on a big ship like the Enterprise or something. This thing's huge. But the truth is, you're on something that's on the nano level. But you wouldn't know that because we're beings of perception. And you would be perceiving not by size, but by consciousness. So these are things just to be aware of. You know, I've mentioned before that I know people that have contact experiences. And when we talk about USOs all the time, not all of them are the ones coming out and going in. Sometimes they look like glitter. And that's a swarm of different, often aquatic craft that are coming out, going down, but they look like glitter floating over the water. How many of y'all have seen something like that? little sparkles. We wouldn't think that that's contact, but it can be. You find you even get regressed for seeing those things that you may have got contact right then. That's what's going on a lot. And I promise y'all, I'm not wrong on this. For whatever reason, Creator had me go to these different conferences. I've been to 14 of them. I'm really blessed. I can't believe I ever got invited to that many of those things. But I will tell you, it's always the people that come up to me and say, "Oh, thanks for sharing. I haven't had experiences like you, but I think this stuff is really cool." And I'll catch like this Artron energy coming off of them. That feeling that they've either been on board a craft or been around some of these beings that are the Kundalini's involved or whatever, but their body cells have been irradiated by that type of radiation or whatever it is that I can pick up. And I will wind up asking them, well, I might not say, I feel so. I'm like, are you sure? Then I said, have you seen a UFO before? And they look at me, well, yeah, I have actually. I said, are you one of the ones that maybe you could see it? Maybe one other person and a group of people who stayed with couldn't see it? No, actually, that did happen to me. I said, you think you'd probably try getting regressed and find out what information during that quick time was communicated to your superconscious and your subconscious that bypasses the conscious mind. And we're dealing with beings on a vibration often so fast, that is what happens. And it's weird because, man, you would think that, okay, you're not going to have one entire civilization, one galactic federation, or I got to deal with that name still, thanks to Jessica, that coming up with the crop circles. But hey, I don't make the rules, I just have to observe them. Anyway, you have a whole type of galactic federation, a federation that entire on the conscious level stops what it's doing, all these civilizations, to individually communicate with just you. That is what's happening. It's targeted contact of a different type, not the negative stuff. That is happening, especially when you're dealing with beings that are coming from the divine field. I keep telling y'all, the divine field is real. That's why some of us have not been hit with these neural weapons and not going through that crap when others are. But some of us are dealing with beings from the divine field. But if they're trying to come through, it's very easy down here for our mind to get so entrained with negative encounters, negative abductions, because it happens. It happens to a bunch of people. But that really sells. That sells in the media. So it's very easy for us to get so based in fear and so much suffering from brain entrainment that when you have some beings from the Akashic records, the black holes, trying to communicate with you through the brain waves, because they don't even exist in our dimension anymore. The civilizations are so old from just the light we're seeing, long out of existence, but they still live in that Mako, in that Akashic record, in the black hole, in the hard drive of the universe. Okay, but they use the brain waves we've already talked about to communicate with us. These black holes operate what the scientists are calling conscious waves. Okay, and these conscious waves are spherical. All right, and when dealing with the microtubules of our brain, they occur two ways, spherical and helical. And the spherically, we can attach with the brain waves. That's why I was trying to show. This is important, folks, because with this chip here, this directional emitter, I've said before, when this thing pulsed out, first the experience I already had part of the experience before I opened up my eyes and seen this thing pulse in. They're already communicating with me, but then I see this manifest above this pond, and this light up here the direction emitter is turning, and the light is turning. And every time it turns near me, it feels like a radio station. Woo, 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 woo. You know what I mean? Whoa. And now I know what it was. They were tuning into my brain waves. So that directional emitter is capable of two things: tuning into brain waves, but also in dealing with black holes and Makos, it's able, I believe, to open a black hole or a Mako, an aperture, by emitting a plasma beam from here that actually opens the aperture. Then they enter, it becomes the quantum hologram effect goes, but they use gravitational waves to go almost instantaneously once they get through. And that's not just my idea. Some of this is stuff that they just would communicate during these experiences. And a lot of y'all will know what I'm talking about. You're physically on board one of these things, and I don't mean in just the dream body. You're physically on board one of these, and the craft itself is so sentient. You're getting what people call downloads the whole time you're there. There's a constant communication going on. And I think it's because in a case of like something like this, or the other one that I've shown you that had the black holes inside of it, like the bridge was like these Makos itself. Okay, when you're dealing a craft like that, we don't know how old these things are. It might not be like the Enterprise on Star Trek, about worth 25 years of service, and they're out of service. These things are space organisms that may be, for all we know, millions of years old. We don't know. But I have the distinct knowledge or feeling that the craft itself knew me on the soul life memory thing, soul lives. It's seen me in other bodies. I've been on board that craft before. Thus, like something like, okay, sorry, y'all, I'm getting off. I meant to look at the chat, but I'm going on some other tangent. But hey, I think it's important to say that, how much these connect with our soul life memories. Because I did have in this experience here with this being, let me get the other, just not the right one. Sorry, the day that I learned how to flash all these pictures up will be the great evolution of Barry Littleton. And some of you might even be here to witness it. It'll just be in a century or two. Okay, here, this being here, and this is the first picture I had done of this being, okay? And she had sent this to me because Christine Denton did all this stuff for me 14 years ago, but actually 15 years ago. But this one, I'd tell her, it wasn't a gray. This being wasn't. So she changed it to about the color that it was. This is much more accurate. Okay. But this being at the end of this experience, and this being was on that craft. Okay. But this being is telling me that I need to help fix this thing here, that it's hovering. And this is a good representation, except this being's eyes were even bigger than that. They were just huge. Okay. And it feels feminine to me. And so I call it the mother of the hybrids. I didn't see any hybrids, but that thing right there, it looked like if I would have went boom, like it would have just popped up, and to me, it looks similar to how kind of on the Enterprise, like Next Generation, Worf and Tasha Yar stand on like this wooden thing that goes down around the bridge. I mean, it just reminded me of that for some reason, but it's got these look almost like glass things on it. So anyway, and she's communicating to me that I need to help fix that thing. And first of all is that she is in my mind so strongly, okay? And I start thinking back quick as I can. Look, I've never even seen anything like this. I can't do anything. And as it's 1,000 years more advanced than anything I've ever seen. And even then, I couldn't fix a whatever. I'm just not my deal. And she's communicating to me that I'm wrong. It's old. It's ancient. And kind of telling me I had made it, so I have to fix it. And she's very, very concerned. And at that point, she kind of raised up. And suddenly I felt like I was floating across the room and I was smashing into this melanin dominant eye, like my nose. You know what I mean? And now I can tell you what she did was she bilocated me through the optical nerves, trying to impress the fear and the worry she's having. So I think I've called her the mother of the hybrids because I think that's maybe what was in there. Hybrid children or fetuses, something like a Borg maturation chamber. I don't know. Food for thought, man. All right. But I've gotten quite a few responses on this being. In fact, when I spoke at SETI the first time, this older lady came up to me and she was crying. She goes, man, I've been waiting years for somebody to illustrate that being. She said, I've met that being. She said, but no one's ever illustrated it before. I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then when I never got to show, you guys know Geraldine Ozako. She was on a panel with her in Vegas, was that about a year ago or so? But I never got to show her that. See, do you recognize that? I mean, that's just an interesting deal there. So I have some parts of my experiences that I haven't shared too, because it would imply someone else. Anyway, off that and back to whatever I was talking about. The ships. Sorry, that implying and that's connected to how long some of these ships and the beings may know us. We have these different incarnations in these different forms, but they recognize us on the soul level. Kind of like how some beings here creatures have access to the race memory. This just takes it a level higher, a soul group access. That's what I think we're dealing with. Like I've said before, look, I'm just a guy, okay? And I'd be tripping out on those experiences. I used to be tripping out, man. But I was one of those people that used to just love field trips. And I tried to absorb as much as I could on field trips. And that's what those things felt like. Because I wasn't being hurt. I mean, in fact, some of the times nobody's even guiding me, but they're in my mind. And I'm so tripped out because I don't have a frame of reference for what I'm seeing. That's important. If you don't have a frame of reference for what you're experiencing, things get weird. Kind of like they say some of the first people that saw the Crusaders coming in those ships across those islanders, they couldn't see them at first because they couldn't understand what they actually were. And then when they did perceive them, they thought, well, they must be the cats that come from the stars. They must bring some food because they had certain symbols and stuff. Interesting stories where it comes to that. But anyway, frame of reference is a lot, especially doing contact experiences. And it's not bad enough that there's that temporal aphasia going on, that sickness makes you want to throw up, makes you want to puke. That stuff is a whole nother trip, man. So anyway, let me go back to the chat here real quick. Sorry, folks, I didn't do what I said. I'm so glad everybody's here, and I meant to answer any questions. That was a real good one. The last one about the size. Fungi protected parasite fungi. Yeah, true. Dan Guest, what's up? It's a black fungus that grows on giants and makes human zombies too. It's far fetched that sound. Look it up. Harabanger report. John Bell, Sean Sorry. Thanks for sharing that. That's cool. I never heard of that. Thank you. Thinking of vibranium from Wakanda. Actually, that would be a metamaterial. Yeah, yeah. There's been metamaterials that have always been illustrated, especially like in science fiction. For my generation, there, for my age anyway. A big one I was into. Man, I was a Knight Rider fan, man. From the day one, I saw the first one. Fan, and then but they had the they called it a molecular bond shell, but in reality it was metamaterial is what Kit was made of. And all the things they could do that now. He had GPS, because Star Trek had GPS too. Heck, the original Star Trek, they had Bluetooth. Yeah, have you noticed that? And Next Generation, they had iPads. They're all over Picard's desk. Very interesting how these things come forward. So that's why I'm waiting for a biomatter resequencer, or a transporter. I think that's the furthest we're going to be. The transporter is probably the hardest one. Okay, I'm at 6:09, folks. I'm trying to catch up here. Sorry, I get carried away on these, but I'm not staying 3 hours this time. So trees have an aura as well, and they do have an emotional states you can measure. Urso superverso. Let's take that back. That's very heavy. Thank you for saying that. So check this out. When dealing with Sasquatch and the Sasquatch connection with trees and how they're able to shapeshift into trees and appear to be trees, not just can they do that by tricking the eye physically, optically, but also I think that they do shapeshifting the way that it was taught, like I was taught shapeshifting, which is actually, in that case, it's going to be merging with the tree and with the energetic form of the tree itself, like the biofield of the tree itself. And when I say this, I find it interesting that they look like stumps a lot, because I have somebody like that. In fact, it's my friend Susan Manwich, you all that are familiar with Susan. And Susan's one that I saw on one of these craft when I was young. Okay. Anyway, point being, she had mentioned what because I did a video, and on this video I've said how trees, when they get, even though they get cut, I think they still have like the phantom limb thing. Okay. And that's really interesting. When someone loses a limb, they still have the phantom limb thing. So that why energetically, although that they may be cut at the trunk, they're still big for a while. Okay, energetically, biofield wise. And Susan said she'd seen that on trees on her property years ago that were cut. She could still see the energetic astral biofield overlay of them. But when you get Sasquatch, I think they're able to match that and actually blend with that. And that's how they blend them. So that's why they look like tree stumps more than just tricking the eye. Sometimes I know they lay down and do that. They look like logs when they lay down. Very, very interesting when dealing with that. And again, that takes me back to that guy, Man of Light. I think he's pretty cool, man. He's got those videos. He's got that strong New Jersey accent or whatever it is. But he's got those. He shows what he thinks is those Sasquatch manifesting from trees, and that goes in tandem with what I've heard that that sometimes the knocks we're hearing are actually them not just manifesting from the tree, but also like MK Davis says, he thinks that some of the tree knocks are the Sasquatch awakening the spirits of the trees to warn them that they're murderers in the area, illegal loggers. All right, so that's I think that's very, very, very interesting and worthy of thought. That's how they all call the forest people. So is that ability something that they're doing, and we don't quite understand it? Again, food for thought. But when dealing with them and trees and Man of Light, I think he's got some good stuff on that. And the fact that they need, like there's another one. It's the Paul Freeman footage, right? That's the big Sasquatch. Oh, there he goes. That one. But you notice that I can't remember who is it that does that video on that, but they show all these light flashes around the time that thing is seen. These odd light flashes that are hitting that camera or that the recording device. And when dealing something like manifesting, if he's being manifest, that energy has to come from somewhere. Science demands that. Okay, that energy comes from somewhere. So I think they're gathering energy from maybe the air or something, the trees. I think that's why they scare some kids sometimes. Nothing better than you get some kids on you, run up alongside them for a while, run up alongside of a car, and get the people's adrenaline going. Hoo, hoo, hoo. And then they take that energy and stay manifested, or use it to unmanifest, whatever the case is. Not saying that they're all doing that, but when we start dealing with some of these beings that are feats of perception that they can do that, like I believe these Sasquatch can. And, I talking to somebody recently, and they said that they thought only the medicine men, the shaman, could really do that, do the manifesting trick. I don't know. I have a hypnosis session with a client that says something different. In this session, and this is an area there shouldn't be no Sasquatch, but there are caves. And they've had some sort of contact, and the Sasquatch were saying that they use the caves to teach the young ones how to manifest. They can't do it yet. They can't control it yet. So they use the cave as safe to teach that, opposing to living in them. Hey, I came out in aggression. Like I said, I can't sit up and, hey, that's not true. I don't know, man. Anyway, all right. Sorry, let me go down here and try to get everybody. Fails. Moy could have been coated in liquid nanobots, which morphed into upright, which took orders from the high chief. Actually, what Jessica had seen, she had seen these vortexes, and these moai being actually carved out by what she was describing is very similar to what our science is now. It's a newer tool called the acoustic scalpel. And if you look at cow mutilations, the acoustic scalpel is the only thing that would not leave a cauterized wound if something was removed like that. But that's a newer device, acoustic scalpel. But what she was seeing was like these vortexes, and then these tools being used, these scalpels being used to carve out the moai. So and the other thing is this: I don't know what, they could have been coded because the robots we're going to do now are coded, so they're going to be coded with this nano deal. So with this self-repairing radiotropic fungus. So it's very, very possible. But my question would be this: what happened to turn them into stone to where they get pushed over by people? You know what I mean? What happened? It's food for thought. It's maybe a Jock Doubleday question. That's brilliant, though. Really good comment on that. Oregon having the largest mycelium network. Really? They might, man. I never thought about that. It's a lot of trees there, man. It's a tree. I mean, when I went to the SETI Ranch, I was one is look. I'm from the Midwest, and I was not been to that state yet, and I was unprepared for how remote that ranch was. I mean, we go up there, we're just going higher and higher up there. It's like 2 hours outside of Portland to get there, maybe a little longer. And this Indian guy, Chief Joseph, is driving me up there, and he's a talker, man. He was talking to me down. But I say, hey, Chief, about 2 hours. It's like, hey, Chief, how much? Hour and a half? How much longer, Chief? Oh, another 45 minutes. Another 45 minutes. But it was so beautiful. The voluptuous valleys and everything there is really gorgeous. And once you see that, it's no doubt. You say, God, if people doubt that there could be a feral human or Sasquatch living in there, it's easy. Anyway, sorry, going on about Oregon, but that's a beautiful place. Everybody say, get ready. It's really pretty. The time of year I went, it was gorgeous. But I wouldn't care to be in the mountains during the winter. They were saying they get 17-foot snow drifts. So, oh, God. A lot of good comments here. Sorry, I'm not saying much because everybody's kind of talking amongst themselves. I'm coming down. Anything you want me to see here before I get off, I'll answer any questions I can. Hello, Rita. Microdosing. Yeah, that's interesting thing. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just I'm really shocked that it took science that long to find out that there was a connection between psilocybin and depression. I mean, anybody that really is eating some really good shrooms could tell you that. It's just one of the things they show you if you're old enough to interpret it, and if the shroom itself accepts you. You know, Skynet. Now talk to Skynet. When it comes to black goo, okay, what I just described as quote unquote the Wetico, that's going to be quite similar to the same thing technically. But I'll tell you, I've always speculated that in ways unrefined oil is sentient. Oil has a lot of characteristics of life. And when you look at how it has an adverse effect on water and what it does to water, the main component of this planet, water, and how it destroys water, and how when you like, what is that? The BP oil spill decades ago. When you look at that, didn't it look like that was an angry organism that had gotten loose that was infecting the water? And the way they say it's made, I've never bought personally, but the way it appears to be contained underneath the tectonic planks, like it's been trapped there. Is it trapped there from a war in the past? So is unrefined oil the black goo everyone always talks about? I'm just giving this to you as food for thought. All right, not saying it's right, I don't know. There's a lot of y'all know much more than me, but these are things that cross my mind. Okay. Anyway, unrefined oil, that is. Yeah, I see a lot of people saying how bad things are. Yeah. Oh wow. Uncanny Valley effect. I don't know what that one is. That's interesting. Uncanny Valley effect. Not heard that. How did the 411 mushroom pickers tie into this? I've never heard that in the 411 part about mushrooms, but I have heard about berry pickers being grabbed and coming up missing. And I always had to wonder though, how much is that one connected to Sasquatch? Because we know the Sasquatch be on the berries, man. They be on the berries hardcore. Oh, Rita Mills, 6:18 p.m. Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to catch up. Sin has always been everywhere, but I disagree that the joy is gone. Um, you know, I had a friend a couple of days ago. We were hanging out, and he had said something very interesting. He said he thought this world was evil and it will never change. I was like, never? He said, I don't think ever. I'm like, whoa, it's a little bit depressing because he's pretty nice, positive brother. I didn't expect to just hear him say something like that. He says, just this place, man. It's just evil here. Yeah. Couldn't even disagree fully. But saved my life. What saved your life? Thanks, Jessica. Appreciate it. Third eye, thank you. We're talking about eating mushrooms. That's a trip, man. Yeah, I when I was younger, man, I had a few excursions. I tried a few. I got interested in the different strains of them. You know what I mean? So I tried a few different kinds, and it was an interesting experience. You know what I mean? It the spiritual factor of them was interesting, and but you notice something that when it comes to things like castanet in them, they were giving the apprentices like different hallucinogenics, peyote, mushrooms, different things. His experience with mushrooms I thought was hilarious. He said that the two teachers, Don Juan and Don Genaro, they leave and they come back hours later. They say you'll do some mushrooms, and they come back. They're carrying these huge trash bags full of mushrooms, and they start brewing them down. And he's saying, "Oh my God, how many of them is there?" And they started laughing. They said he thought he was going to eat an eighth. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Yes, a virus like a computer can go undetected, unseen. Yes, it can. Chronic wasting. Yes, indeed. That's another one. Right there with chronic CWD is right there with mad deer disease, mad cow disease. People dog me out when I talked about mad deer disease 10 years ago. That was another thing, and these things that might be able to jump species like that. Very interesting prion diseases that I believe come from actually the stars, and I believe it's a assault for microorganisms from space that live on the collective conscious level. I've thought that always. So there was one I mentioned, I think it was on Jessica's show or somebody's show. I mentioned Soretta. I did a show with Soretta Antaria 3 days ago. Really nice lady. But I had mentioned how there was this Project Stardust at home. I don't think it still functions, but you could log on there and look through the electron microscope and try to identify bacteria tract or a space dust tract from that colloidal bucket, and then it would name it after you if you could. But that bucket that they grabbed out there and dropped down, or when they go somewhere like asteroid, actually that's called, of all names, the Barry mission, Barry 1 mission, where they sent the Rex Osiris probe to asteroid Bennu to mine some of it and send it back and dropped it in the desert. And that anyway, so. I really did think that shrooms and LSD in moderation for us is good. Wasn't a big fan of LSD. I'd done LSD before. Wasn't a big fan of that one. It felt very synthetic. You know what I mean? Prions do resemble the microbes brought back from the Mars rocks. I've had meteorites with those in them. When dealing with well, I can't really say that about the Mars rocks, but the moon rocks and also the rocks that came back from asteroid Bennu. Richard Hoagland and them have done some things with electron scans that show those things look to have almost gears in them, gears that are on like the nano level, pico level, and that's showing that those things appear to be some type of machinery. And I had mentioned before that one of those pieces from asteroid Bennu was put on display at the Smithsonian. And which one was it? I can't remember now, but I did a video on that. It's on the channel, Asteroid Bennu. But they had Richard Hoagland was telling people to go see it quickly before they switched it out. Take pictures of it with your phone, and these things need to be put underneath the electron microscope to show people that one and the rock that was at that term Biden was still in office, and he said there was a rock, the moon rock, on the president's desk, and that one too has very weird things that looks like it's ancient machinery that's been so old that it's petrified now for most parts, but still very interesting. Won't eat deer meat anymore unless you see it's butchered. When I was younger, my mom had cooked some. My father brought home for one of those customers. He was a salesman out in the country. He would travel and petroleum products, and he brought back a bunch of deer meat. And my mother cooked it up, and she kept complaining that it was too bloody. She's like, "This stuff is so damn bloody." And what I did notice was a little bit. I thought it was pretty good, but the meat was a little tougher, kind of tough. But what do I know? Third Eye Tribe, same Dan. Coming from a recovering addict myself, microdosing helped me get off pharmaceuticals. Right on, right on. Yeah, I'm glad they're exploring that because it's really beneficial. The joyous should take shrooms. It might help. It might help, but definitely the microdosing it can help. Glad you got your life back. You guys complimenting each other, helping each other out. Very cool. Dan, Barry, where's the best place to start Star Trek as a complete newbie? I would start with the original, William Shatner and Spock in them, 1966. Now, give it that it's like if you're going to start with Doctor Who, the special effects just aren't there, Dan. Okay. Don't go there. When you see the Klingons, you'll say, God, how did they evolve with that genetic drift? But when you see the difference in the Klingons from the beginning to like the newer ones. But anyway, just I would start with those because, somebody was mentioning today that for the first 4 episodes, they didn't even call it the Federation of Planets yet. They hadn't named it yet. But yeah, but just the first one is a good place to start. That'll take you into the next generation. Then that'll take you into Voyager, Deep Space Nine. And I'm more of what they call the golden age of Star Trek person. So I haven't seen a lot of the new ones outside of J.J. Abrams, but I'm looking forward to discovering them. Well, I took that back. I've seen some of the Picards, not all of them. And I think those are actually pretty good. They get slammed a lot, but I think that's a pretty good show so far. And it gives the next generation a chance to close it out. It's not like any of those people are getting any younger, man. That was back in the 80s. So anyway, I started the beginning with Kirk, and you can see William Shatner overact. Nothing better than that, dude. The uncanny valley effect in human-like robots. But thanks, Jessica. Yeah, they move fast. I'm trying to keep up. I microdose while tripping balls, if that makes sense. Smoke about a pound, brother. Smoke about a pound. When they're tripping good on some good shrooms, man. I see you shop, man. You hanging hard, ain't you? Bigfoot dwarf. Damn. Oh, a lot of sins going on. Government is being uncovered. Rats are running from the spotlight. I hope so. Third Eye Tribe, best place to start. Trek as a newbie. I think I got that one. Um, Feos. Amua is a ship colony of insectoids inside it. First of all, Amua is gone, and it didn't turn out. I watched that intensely. I have to ask, by what? How do you know that? How do we know that Moa was full of that? And actually, science kind of shows that it would be questionable outside the weird orbit it had. But I was watching that hard. I was watching more comet sighting when it came into the solar system. That one I was really watching. But a Moa really got everybody's attention. Now, I did find it interesting that it looks remarkably like Jessica's picture of that crashed moon landing ship with the black Mona Lisa on it. Somebody's asking, how do you know they're mantids? Good question. Oh, like your shirt. Oh, thank you. Actually, I never wear this, but it's mushrooms on it. I thought it fit the time. You know what I mean? Like when we're talking about mycelium, why not just go all out and waste it? Where's some mycelium? Thank you though. Normally I was wearing too many hoods. Time and space are unlimited. Can't feed fear. Nope. And that's what that's what the Nomo told the Zulu. You'll have to move past fear and past war, and then you'll be allowed to join Galactic again. And we're going to be the ones that come and help you, as they're one of the other sea or saltwater seas they have there, saltwater oceans like we have here. So they were going to be the ones that were going to kind of get us back into Galactic. They would come back, but I don't think that's happened yet because we've not got past that. Similar to the one I was talking earlier, and that was on Jessica's show. Credo Mutua had on the neck of mysteries, sorry, the necklace of mysteries. There was a spaceship on board one of them, and it's got these rocks in it. And in these rocks were this woman had some type of an encounter with a reptilian, and when she gets back to her child, she's getting water, and when she gets back to her child is playing with a different type of extraterrestrial kid, and they're playing with these rocks that are glowing, and they're just having the times of their life. But she thinks, oh my God, I'm getting my child away from this monster. And before she can grab her kid, the extraterrestrial mom pops up and stops her and starts talking telepathically to her and said, I know that your world is based on fear, but just let them play. Just let them play. And so she did. And when it's over and they're gathering up, the extraterrestrial woman tells her, "Keep those rocks, they're from my world. And remember how our children were playing together. And when your world isn't led by fear anymore, and fear isn't the dominant emotion, my people will come back. And maybe all of our children will start playing together." I thought that was a really cool story. You know what I mean? Anyway, people repeating other trauma, repeating other people's trauma. Trauma says fear instead of doing inner work. Yeah, trauma does sell. Trauma sells big time. Trauma sells big time. Negative stuff, sensationalism, it all sells big time. Fantasy sells big time. Inner work does not. I agree with that. Definitely. It's sad too. That's one of the reasons this planet's in the condition it's in. We're bombarded with horrible shit all the time. Taking to people is a great way to break the trap. 90% of people are very kind. The Earth is the only planet with sounding head. What is that? Probably why ETs use telepathy, no rock and roll on their planets. Sorry, that was a little above me. I read something about being around dumb people can make you dumb. Oh yeah. It can fry you out. Have you ever noticed that, like, have you ever met somebody that's really just stupid, no common sense? And you know that deal, like, it's genetic. Most likely their parents were idiots. Grandparents were idiots. It's like passed down. Idiocy that's passed down. Genetically, yeah. Anyway, okay. The fact humans can take accountability is scary, and our buying belief in falsehoods by institutions. Human sleep must wake up more than many believers. Very true. That's at 6:30 p.m. I'm about finished here, y'all. But that's very true. Starseed awakening. Something that happens during the near death or past life regression. I've mentioned before. People go to this place of translation and reconfiguration, is what I call it. But in that place, whether it's a office, a pond, a nature spot, whatever it might be, the guide will just come and take the people to the spot. But they'll go through these things. It could be a ledger. It could be memories coming up in the water. But what they do is they start going over all their life choices and the intent behind them, how they affected others. That's what your panoramic life review thing is. That's what I was going through when I died, but it was like a flash. You know what I mean? Like the speed of a flash. But it's these things go down. That's why a lot of times, if you're somebody that is been really, really horrible to people, dark and negative, that own karma and that own intention may scare you into an incarnation lower vibration than this. And by the same token, if you're somebody who's really loving into creator and doing things like that, you can get blissed out. And you get blissed out on the level you incarnate in, that astral level, the mansion world you incarnate in, and you don't go further because you lost it volition because everything you have you need. So that's one thing. Then you don't go closer towards the creator. That's something the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Bardo Thodol, warns us about. So, but during that place of translation and reconfiguration, all that you've done and put on to others comes back, and it like configures into your soul matrix. Then you get wiped clean and reincarnate, so you can learn and get better. It's very interesting. Dan, yes, being aboard a conscious ship, much literally like being inside a mine, literally. You know, in some ways, the pure conscious craft I was on board, it's like it manifested around us. Okay, I was with somebody else, and they're sitting there and he like kind of like start zoning out for a second. We just had seen this shit, but it was like gone. Then all of a sudden, individuals looking at me going, "Did something just happen? Were we just on a craft or something?" Because you could feel it, you could hear it, and then it happened again. And he wound up missing a lot of time. And I had the experience coming back and see everything that happened, but it's like the way it happened. You know what I mean? So I would say it would be like that. And I think that was them actually manifesting more third dimensional. I don't think they were able to do it the first time, but they got to meet us halfway. You know what I mean? That was the pure conscious craft I interacted with anyway. So that's what I believe it was. That's also the one that could generate its own wormholes. It's Mako's. And that room I thought was like a bridge. Sorry, I'm not gonna. Here it is. There was other rooms on board that craft, but this room here, that's the one. And those things, those were actually these octagon looking things. Those are actually supposed to be black holes, Makos. They were all over this room. Okay, and they were like this creature that this light being, it jumps in front of me, and at first it looks kind of like a pink energy ball spear, and it starts unfolding and it turns golden and it starts unfolding. It looks like kind of a sunflower, my state flower, and then it goes into one of these black holes, these wormholes, and they're opening and closing all over this room. Okay, that's what she was trying to illustrate. But it goes in one, it comes out another one within a second or so, and it's putting in my mind that we're like fish out of water in your dimension and in your density. So this room itself, though, is a part of this ship, and I don't know if it's a bridge or not, but it's a place that's capable of generating Makos, black holes, and then probably choosing the one with the most coherency for a pathway. Most coherent pathway. Anyway, but that's a conscious craft. The other room was the one I've showed before that had the synoptic helmet in it that came down from the ceiling. And I was really kind of tripping out on it. What is this thing? But they're telling me it was because without it, I would not have a frame of reference for the encounter. That's this one. And this one really tripped me out. You know what I mean? But I started looking when I saw there's an episode of Star Trek, the original, that's called Spock's Brain. And at the end of that, McCoy puts on this helmet. It looks somewhat similar. And I started looking around, like, science-wise, and they have these helmets that guys, in fact, the guy in Oregon, it's made out of nano. It's got like the spiral nano coatings on these things that were like Tesla coils, and he's made it into a helmet. It doesn't look quite like this, but it's quite interesting in what he's trying to do, But this here was so I would have a frame of reference. There was some type of machine type thing in the back there. I tripped out on this because this is virtual reality scenario technology is what they're putting in my mind. And then they warned me, and they said, just be careful, warned me that lower civilizations have taken that technology and used it, perverted it to deceive people. And it wasn't long after that, I was doing a ton of research, I came across Carla Turner. And she was the first one I heard talking about virtual reality technology and being exposed to it. And I knew she's right on that, but I mean, she had horrible stuff happen to her, and then she died. All her stuff was really awakening and very dark and nefarious, but nonetheless, what she was saying was very real. The threat that some contact is going on, and the liaison between Big Brother running things and these other ETs that are lower vibrational, So anyway, suffice to say, that's why I found out what screen memories were and went deep into learning what happened to me and really trying to uncover everything. I want to make sure that didn't happen to me. And if it did, I want to know everything about it, period. So that's where I came from that. That's why I get sometimes touchy with people trying to tell me like I was part of these programs. No, I was not. And don't try to tell me I was because you want me to be. I was not. I looked for that. And if I was, I would tell you, hey, I was exposed to it also. I was not. And I represent the majority, but we don't hear this due to the media, but we have negative abductions. They happen. Credo had mentioned how frequent they were in Africa, how many people he met that have been hurt, assaulted by the Greys like he had been. Like he said, I asked them, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? He said they wouldn't answer. He said they didn't care. But he said something several times. He said they had this kind of malice about them when they're doing their work. They felt very angry. And then he started making mentionings about how a lot of the ancient astronauts always had on protective suits, how the Greys do not. A lot of them, some of them don't even have on uniforms. Some of them do. And he's saying it's because they're from here, from our future, is what he thought. At least one part of them anyway. And that's what they're doing and why they're harvesting us. And he's right. He kept using the word harvesting. Anyway, sorry. Steve, thank you. My tangents. Yeah, I go deep down the thing to get all excited and lose track of what the hell I'm talking about. Did my fair share of green only. All right, all right. I used to sell acid, a lot of it. So did I when I was in high school. I had this cat that would sell me these sheets, and they were really cheap, man. I make good money on those sheets, but I had to quit messing around, man. I was nefarious when I was younger, man. God, like a freshman. Yeah, Turian. Sold those things, but I didn't really like eating it that much. Didn't really care for acid. It felt like it could just cook your brain. You know what I mean? Which it can in some ways. Not as natural as shrooms. All right, I'm almost caught up. Barry, you may need to activate your DNA key or past life information blocked from. I'm not blocked from my past lives, man. That's a little bit presumption there. And as far as DNA, I've told what experience I've had where that was even connected to any experience. I went on that last time I was live, but I'm not blocked from anything. So please don't think that that's not where I'm at. I'm pretty aware. Oh, did somebody die? What did they die on? What was it, on acid or on? Hmm. Hmm. I'm sorry. Sorry that happened. I am sorry that happened. It's meant to find Barry and Jessica's channel. Barry have a contact website. Yeah, I do have a website. It's barrylittleton .com. I don't get on there very much. I gotta probably have somebody to help me update it, maybe get more effective on there. So that is my website, barrylittleton.com. I seem to do most of my stuff here on YouTube and on Facebook. I do some stuff on Patreon, but mostly here is a good spot. And my email is barrylittleton13@gmail.com. Thank you for asking and thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. Oh, I just lost you, whoever you were. I'm sorry. Uh, whoever you were, thank you though. Wow, a lot of talk about herbs and psychedelics. I didn't expect that. That's cool though. Wakanda keeps coming up. Okay. Knight Rider was cool. I made my own kit, made a refrigerator box. Girl in the Gong, what's up? Hey, something I was a fan of concerning that show was, there was the evil kit car, the night automated roving robot. It actually was the voice of Optimus Prime from the Transformers. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing. I always tripped out on that. Anyway, yeah. Land of the Giants. Land of the Lost, the Slee Stack. Yeah, that was an interesting one there. Land of the Lost. Yeah. I used to watch that when it came on right before Bigfoot and Wild Boy. My oldest brother is 68 years old, much older than me, and he still puts me down for watching old Bigfoot and Wild Boy. But they show Bigfoot running at 60 miles and 70 miles an hour, showing paranormal abilities and jumping across valleys with some sort of a big holler. Anyway, but the Slee Stack, yeah, interesting. And I think they were supposed to represent Saurians, the inner Earth reptilians from here, that would have technically have been like Hadrosaurus if the Hadrosaurus had evolved. That's my understanding. Oh man. Star Trek teleporter looks dangerous. I would sooner settle down. Like McCoy, huh? I got to agree with you. In reality, I wouldn't want my molecules broken down to sit across space like that. And especially because when I think about that Pharaoh sum for four, when I think about the teleporter, I'm sorry, I can't help but think about old Brundle Dash Fly. Old Brundle Fly. Jeff Goldblum. That was one of the few remakes I thought was really good. At least the first one. He was always in. Brundlefly can't digest solid foods, so he has to regurgitate. He was that was great, man. Brundlefly, but every time I would never be able to teleport without looking around, thinking, is there a fly in here? Is there a gnat in here? I'd never be okay mentally with it. So traumatized by Brundlefly, Brundle Dash Fly. Anyway, octopi use their abilities. That show, Resident Alien. The last one I had seen, I'm probably a season behind on that, maybe two. But the last one I had seen, he was in the bowling alley with those chicks, and he was smoking this big old bong. It was getting blowed. And he goes to that restaurant, and that blue octopus that's in the tank that he'd been communicating with, he's like, man, he said, man, they got me on the menu. I'm about to get served up. And you're smoking bowls? It was funny as hell. That was just interesting. It's interesting how quick, once they discovered this about the octopus, how it just went out. Nobody was talking about octopus until they found this DNA stuff about them. Now all of a sudden, octopus are in. They are in. When I was a kid, there was a show called Octopus, and it was that huge octopus the size of like a giant rig. It was tearing up rigs and stuff, like bigger than the Kraken, even than the Kraken. Ooh, Infinity Stones. I'm almost done, so I got to get out of here. Swan Lake Bigfoot. Don't think I've seen that one. All of us have different energies. Very true. Cancers. I'm a Cancer. I'm a Cancer. A lot of cancers in here. That's cool. I can dig that. I know one thing about you cancers. You always have great goodies in the cupboards. Always good sweets, cookies, chips, all sorts of great junk food. You're always good for that. You may not eat it, but you always got it there. At least the cancers I know anyway. Wow, I had no idea it was that far down. I'm at 650. I'm pressing through now. A lot of stuff about charts. That's cool. I did acid for Grateful Dead in '92. I had a bunch of friends that went on the Grateful Dead tour in '92 to they went to what is that place called? La Palooza. They all talked about that for a long time. Anyway, it's weird to know something knows more about me than I do. Why I should do a good birth read and regression. I don't know. 657. Rick Ross. What's happening, brother? Aloha. I just want to say hello. Man, what's up, Rick? Interesting. That video we did comes up sometimes. Rick and I did a video. It's on my channel under the Asceti Ranch playlist or the Melanin Dominant or Melanin Black Science playlist. It's called Rapping with Rick Ross. Very interesting. We had some interesting experiences out at that ranch. Mushrooms can't be denied like weed. It doesn't need an alchemist. It just grows like that. Well, grow. It wasn't shit pack. It cow shit packs patties. Man, it took a long time for me to get past that conceptually before as a kid, for a teenager, before I could actually try them. I kept tripping on them, but I look at them like God. And at first, I could they must smell like crap. They really don't for the most part, but the mentally it does something to the mental to know that. Or you talk to somebody who was going out picking them, you're like, what? All right, folks. Okay, I'm coming to the end here. I'm at okay, no, I'm not. I'm at 7 o'clock. Rick Ross again. What up, Rick? Rita Mells. What's up? Rita, I know you must just get that all the time about the ghost movie. I can't help it though. Every time I see your name, I always think about that. Actually, I guess that was Miller, not Mills, so I apologize. Robin M, how you doing? Thank you for coming. Gary M. Barry, what are your thoughts on the flat Earth with the dome theory? If there's a firmament, does it mean we have never really been in true space? I got to be honest. I shy away from that topic mostly, but I do not believe the flat Earth thing at all. And for starters, with this, if the Earth was flat, why does it create an inertial drag frame? Meaning, a ball, like even if it may not be a perfect sphere, but oval or whatever, it creates an inertial drag frame, meaning that it bends the space time around it as curved. And really, that's what gravity is too, is the curvature of space. Anyway, but that why would the Earth create that drag frame if it was flat? And it can be proved that it does because when the satellites used to go off, like by a minute or so every year, they would go off at a synchronicity. That was because of that drag frame. And that drag frame creates what's called closed time-like curves. And that's what really where we start getting into real time travel. There, closed time-like curves, because that can be used with what is it? General relativity that uses low power, opposed to special relativity that uses high power when they usually describe time travel. So very interesting. Somebody kept wanting to talk about. Was talking about recently. In fact, it was Jessica's show. Project Chani, Chani. You should talk about them all the time years ago. And I found them interesting because really it's not just an underground collider, but what they're specializing in is quantum tunneling, sending data, what can also be called propagation of data backwards through time. Anyway, it's quantum tunneling. And that's something that they're specializing in. When sending signals back to things that could change our past, it's kind of scary. Anyway, hopefully that answers that. But as far as the firmament, I'm still in belief of kind of what I have a memory of, which is there was some type of a war here. And like whether it was Lemuria and Atlantis or whatever, but there was a tractor beam that there's two moons, brought one of these moons closer, crushed it in the gravity field. It was supposed to rain down, unlike Lemuria. But what happened is the heated fragments destroyed most of our firmament and brought it down. And the other thing that happened to the firmament, I believe, was what Elizabeth Hayes describes in. Oh, sorry, I thought I had it in here. The book Initiation. I don't. Sorry, the book Initiation. She goes over what they say, and that's something else that I have a memory of. Okay, these devices that would have been in a place that was Lemuria, or when it was still even Mu on this planet, and these devices that actually functioned on Kundalini energy, on prana, on life energy, and on intent of will. And when you had these hybrid cats that these were part Neanderthal gained access to the temple through initiation, and they got a hold of these devices, they went awry because they had these selfish intentions and selfish intent of will, and it got into the devices and caused them to start creating what it would be like a nothing from the never-ending story. And the nothing was what? Dissolving Fantasia into nothing. And that's turning matter into energy, energy into matter. Another reason I wouldn't want to use the transporter, because that's what that does too. But that's what these devices were doing. And that caused the lost continent to go up, okay, into the atmosphere, then come raining down as this huge flood of mud and sand, explaining how some of these deserts occurred on this planet too. That's in Elizabeth Hayes's book. And I have something similar, a memory of something similar to that. I know there were devices when there's one chapter in that book. That book was given to me when I was probably, maybe a freshman in high school, earlier than that even. And it was told, the person gave it to me said, I know you have past life memories. There's stuff you remember that doesn't go with anything you've learned. Read this, it'll help. And that was a book by Elizabeth Hayes. And I immediately, there was a chapter called Bogar and the Staff of Life. Boy, that one. When she's describing that staff, I remember such device, big time. And I can tell you that I was way before third or fourth destiny. I wasn't even from Egypt. There was stuff going on long before that. A lot of us have lived before. A lot of us are incarnating now to try to burn some of that debt that happened from what happened back then and create a new cycle for this planet. So maybe this won't be a questionable prison planet anymore. You know what I mean? Things will change here. This will become part of galactic civilization. Part of like it is on Star Trek. Everybody wants to get to Earth because Earth is a place of like freedom and vacation. And Star Trek represents Earth that way. Like what is it? There's a book, the Earth, the only planet of choice. It calls the Earth one of the prime planets, it's a planet meaning that you have so much different life on there that more than most planets do, that can be taken off Earth, different species, and used as a garden planet to like seed other worlds with different life. But this was supposed to be a place like that. So it's just cool to think of things like that. Sorry, put this over here. All right, finishing this up here. A world of fear. Yeah, it is, unfortunately. I always thought jellyfish can fly. They're interesting creatures, though. Jellyfish, I think they're very interesting creatures. And when you maybe look at some type of space forms, there could be. That's another one that I think is Star Trek Next Generation illustrated that. Hollywood sucks. Telekinesis. Exactly. Ursa survives are 707. I'm 100% certain all of us are brought here because we're supposed to be here. Again and again in these past life regressions, the person always chooses to come here or to incarnate wherever they go to. It's always their choice. And believe me, I ask all the time. I mean, the first question, well, hey, is the light making you incarnate over there? Is the light making you do that? No. Consistently, always the answer I get. Hey, is your guide making you do it? Is a guide forcing you to incarnate over there, go there? No, it's my choice. It's my choice. I hear that all the time. But the thing to be aware of is just at a certain point, we get wiped clean by the mind of God so that we can learn everything again and go through the process again. At least here on this planet, it's that way. I'm sure as we evolve further, we start incarnating with more and more life memories, soul life memories intact. But that is not to say that this is the prison planet that I thought it was. I mean, I was one of the people that thought that too, okay? Just it's because there's so much evil going on down here. I thought surely this was a place where it was just a place of lost souls trapped in a reincarnation cycle. Then you hear these cats talking about the false light, the soul traps. And most of them are describing what somebody else encountered. Or they're being exposed to neuroweaponry here in the body that's affecting the human brain. Okay? That's what they're doing to people. Neuro war is what that is. So, it's things like that we really got to be most aware of. But I see a lot of people talking about fear a lot. You're right. I could say, it's true. Like fear was a problem in my experiences because I'd be tripping out. But and the problem was that the fear part of it was neutralized by the vibration of these non-humans when in their presence. The ship of the vibration of the ship. And I want to call it love, but it's not just love. It's very calming. So that's enough to where it stays you from not just losing your mind, because otherwise it might be really difficult. Marcia, thank you for coming. You signed out. Have a good night, my friend. Thank you for all support, and you watched all the videos. Thank you very much. Ruth Montgomery books. Oh. Ruth Montgomery. I know that name. What is the name of the books, though, she written? Ruth Montgomery. Was that near death? Or near death experiences? I recognize that name, Ruth Montgomery, but I can't tell you the exact book. Name a couple of them, and I might have. I can let you know there. Yes. Also, like narcissism, I always thought that could be a parasite or entity caused to operate like that. Insane to me. It can also be a part of negative identities too that we get during traumas. Because that bastard that I did all those interviews and all that work with from Australia, he is a narcissist, a big one. Somebody who will screw you over and then act like it's your fault. And what they do is exactly what he did with me, which is ingratiate you when they first meet you, make you feel like, you're a worthwhile person, they're a good person, into being a friend with you. And then suddenly pretend like you do something wrong and portray you and turn against you. for most likely no reason at all. And then they act like they're entitled to it and like they've done the right thing. Really sick individuals. He's one of them, but it's all right. He's ringing crystal bowls and calling in UFOs and saying things that are other people's stuff that people listen and like, and so they buy into it, especially younger people. But I'll tell you, it does matter. The messenger does matter. You know, it does matter. Not just the message, but the messenger does matter. Period. You know, I hear so often people like that screw people over. They say things like, "Oh, it was just business." Man, no, it's not. Been in business a long time. I run my business the same way I conduct my personal life, with the same ethics, with the same morals. And if I don't have no morals in my business ethic and my business life, I don't have none in my personal life either. Same person. That's important. I think that's crap people get out of too much right now, saying, "Oh, it's just business," when you screw somebody over. That's a bunch of crap. Anyway, sorry. That's me getting real. All right, folks, I'm at the end of it. I believe in generational curses, just like having the stupidity gene. Generational curses are very, very real. I've had during sessions, I do a breaking of generational curses. Okay, and I can tell you that they come and they embed in areas of trauma in people. They don't even know that they have them. They come from your parents, your grandparents. Okay, then on top of that, you've got past life trauma that's incarnating with you. The soul matrix transfers it to another body, and it gets stored in certain areas of the body, the organs that stores certain traumas. You know, I've did a video about trapped emotions and negative entities. That's what they home in on, trapped emotions that are in the body. That's where earthbound spirits attach at. That's where negative inorganic beings, demonic attach at, are at those places, definitely. So generational curses are very true. Very, just sucks. We incarnate, you get that. You get your own stuff from your own past incarnations. You know, and it's like, huh, welcome to Earth, man. Anyway, sorry. Imagine having a DNA craft parked out there somewhere. You know, I think in some ways, think of actually the microtubules of our brain in almost a DNA type of way, and that they're also they're they're spherical though, not helical. Okay, but still the DNA looks somewhat helical. It's very interesting when dealing with that. For Benchino, I prefer the Emocho Cloud myself. And look, check it out. I'm just going to say this real quick because I'm probably going to get on Patreon and talk about it. I don't give anybody any financial advice at all. I can only tell you the plays that I be in. Okay? The place I be in will be watching Render right now. It's dropped below 268 it was. Especially gets around $2. Render is a good one. Good one to watch. Just saying, you know. Anyway, you look at the chart on that if you like Render, or if you check it out, check out the 4-hour chart, check out the 8-hour chart, check out the daily chart, check out the weekly, and then check out the monthly. If you can read a chart really and read charts, look at the value gaps, look at the order blocks. It'll tell you everything you need to know. All right, I think I'm out of here. So we could quite literally be on these craft and on Earth right now. Arkeem Ra talks about having clones underground. Yeah. They can walk when reality is walking through the door. Deer leather is very tough. The grays you encounter, what image did they show you? What destruction, right? Earth being destroyed and horrible cataclysms. I'm curious. Subversive or year so did they show you negative things, negative timeline? I've gone with them and there were no malicious vibes. What were the visions though? I'm very interesting. Meth is another spiritual, but it's dark. People don't talk about it. Interesting. It's called crystal meth. People see shadow beings and all that. Yeah, I wouldn't advise that. That's taking it pretty hard. Meth is definitely a destructive drug. All right. We all Rio and Jay, thank you very much. Thank you for being here too. I guess they put spells on the stuff they're pushing out. Hey, that's what they did with Ouija boards, especially the original Parker ones. Those things were all hexed. I had a family Ouija board that was like passed to me, and I put it up in my apartment. And I put it over like this doorway thing. And it was like I didn't nail it in there, but I mean it was up there. That thing fell and hit me on the head one night. I mean, cut my head on the top too. That's I knew I was supposed to have that thing. I didn't ever use it, but I mean, it just started to look cool. And it was a family heirloom, but that thing went in the closet, man. You know, most of the I've I've tried most of the drugs, and the shit I saw on Crystal was sure enough dark and evil. No, Rita, I'd like to hear more about that. What the beings were like, kind of. But I understand. It's interesting. A lot attached to just drugs because it weakens our energy field. It's so much we hear so often. But you've got others that I think that actually lay within the drug itself. Like for example, you've got those. What is it that's in with the mushrooms and also with the not the DMT? What is it? The Ray kept telling me. Ray Hernandez. I remember we're at this. We're at this conference. It's a melanin dominant conference, and we're sitting at the front row, and he keeps leaning over and telling me stuff while somebody's like presenting Sonny Barrett. He's like, Barry, I ate this ayahuasca and I saw the shaman. And, and I started laughing, man. I've heard about the shaman with ayahuasca. Sometimes with mushrooms, you have the troll people, I believe. And just interesting, these entities that will come associated with the power plant. I think the last live I did, we talked about we're curious how many people died to learn what we could eat. But those that could see the energy fields of the plants that match humanity and knew the ones we could consume. They also knew the ones that had an energy field that were totally adverse to ours. They knew those were poison, and they could see the ones that had a malleable energy field to humanity, but a much bigger one. Those are power plants. Okay, so food for thought. Think I'm gonna make it to the end. I've made it. Oh, I thought I had kava. I never had kava until I spoke at this conference in Cocoa Beach, Florida. We went to a kava bar. I drank a little bit of that stuff, and it made me a little. I didn't care for it a whole lot, to be honest. Amanda Gifford, thank you for coming. I appreciate you being here. That's what everybody kept saying. It's supposed to be very relaxing. Kava, Girl in the Gong. Man, that stuff had me anything but relaxed. I almost felt like I did a rail of cocaine or something. It didn't really agree with me. I went with everybody there 2 nights, and I drank it both nights. And at one night, I was like, "Oh man, my God!" I don't know. They say it's not to do that to everybody, but for me, it made me rush. Wasn't a big kava fan. There was something else everybody was drinking too. Kava, and what was the other one? There was another type of a drink everybody was drinking down. Not that it didn't taste decent. It was just I didn't like the effect. Sweetest fish. So with the candy? People have the wrong concept of flat. Humans are too literal, but still, where's the picture of our planet? And other planets are CGI too. NASA only gets light images. People don't know that. You might want to actually look into that a little deeper. Look into the data and look at the telemetry a little bit more. You can see very easily that the worlds are spherical. I mean, look at them. Find me one that is square or anything like that, or one that is flat. I mean, the stuff that people have to really look at the data truly, and you can see these things. You know what I mean? That it's pretty apparent. But that's why I don't go into the flat Earth thing, because to me it's people that really didn't pay attention to the data or science. To me, that's why I just stay out of it. So that way people don't get mad at me. The ice wall and all these other things that are, you know, things that could be easily proven with satellite imagery, easily proven right now, and certain things that science proves don't vibe with the flat Earth thing. But I just stay out of it. Let everybody think their own, whatever. You know what I mean? I wondered how come my Nikes don't have that big thing at the end of them, so I could. Anyway, DMT. Yeah, never tried that, but I've heard a lot of things about it. Good Lord. Kind of exciting. And I can't remember, does ayahuasca have DMT in it? I should know that, but I've never done either. So thank you for being here, Rita, and whoever else said thanks. Thank you all. All right, Jay, thank you. I'd love to get a reading from you. Please hit me up on barrylittleton13@gmail.com. Cool. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I think I made it to the end. I did it. I didn't think I'd get here. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I appreciate y'all. I hope I didn't offend anybody with any of my views or things. It's supposed to be only about mushrooms and mycelium and contact, but I think we got to everything that was important. Yeah, that's everything. So just take that in. Again, credit where it's due. Just nobody's really talking about this, so I want to really it's become, as before, it's so commercial now. I want to just give you my deal on this and things I've seen that have actually happened with mushrooms and mycelium that prove what I experienced and what I've been talking about all the time. It's really not about me, but it is nice to have some type of scientific evidence to back things up. And so many of you are contactees, especially those of you in this group, that it might help you. Even just one little piece of it helps you a little bit. That's worth it, because we're all coming together, putting this tapestry together. I've said it before. I think 80% of the population is contactees, and we put this tapestry together. This is when we go forward to become a type 1 civilization. Thank you all for coming. Please leave some comments. And the other thing, I've got several videos I'll try to put up in the other chat afterwards, which is I've got several mycelium videos out, radiotropic fungus out, 2 of those, I think, and also one over the deep biosphere and contact. The deep biosphere is a big one, especially when dealing with the bacteria that might be even more radiation resilient than Donococos radioduranians, or however you say it. Anyway, thank you very much, all. Much love and peace. Have a good night. Please stay protected, and I'll see you next time. Peace.